holiday because this video is going up around holiday time. So I hope you guys are having a wonderful, whatever you celebrate, a wonderful holiday. Today I have Winnie.
Wait, you can introduce Winnie first for me?
Winnie, yeah, Winnie, looking fine, and my dad, who is also looking fine. And this video is going to be my father.
Sugar cookie, put it down.
Yeah, but today we will be talking about my adoption story. For those of you who don't know, I was adopted at like 2 months later.
You were a little older than that by the time it all shook out, maybe 4 months or something.
4 months.
5 months, yeah.
4 months from the Ukraine. So we will be talking about that story. So if you might want to stay tuned for that, go ahead and stay tuned.
It's a little crazy. It's a little bit of a crazy story. It's I think it might be interesting to people, anybody who's adopted or thinking about adopting. It's quite a story, and especially international adoption. It's a little bit of a worst case scenario, but it was wild. So I thought I'd tell the story whenever Anna tells me to. I'll just tell you all about it.
Yep. Make sure you turn on subtitles if you need, subscribe if you're new, and like this video and comment any questions. I'm sure Dad would be happy to do a best to answer any of them. So here we go.
Okay. So we were living in Boston at the time. This is like 2001. And we decided we wanted to adopt a little baby. And we started talking to agencies up in the Boston area about where we might go. We thought about doing it internationally. So we thought about China or Russia or Ukraine. This agency had China, Russia, or Ukraine. Those were the choices. Ukraine was the most difficult, they said. And they wouldn't even let a couple adopt in the Ukraine if they didn't already have at least one child. Because it's just too emotional and too difficult when it's your first child, and too many things go wrong in Ukraine. So we thought, you know what, let's try it. So we did, and let's see, fast forward. So you wait and you get, at some point you get basically a email or a call and says, hey, there's a baby available. And they tell you so little about the baby, it's ridiculous. It's like, here's how much they weigh, here's how long they are, and then they give you a list of health problems they might have, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute, and why they do that. So we were alerted that a baby existed that we could go over, and so we scheduled a trip and went over, which is a pretty major trip. And you fly into Kiev, the capital city, and then we went down to Nikolaev, which is in the southern part of Ukraine, down by the ocean. It's like a shipping port, and so we had a guide and a translator. One person, a guide translator, who took us around and made sure we didn't get in trouble, because there's lots of ways to get in trouble. Ukraine at that time was only less than 10 years away from when they left the Soviet Union, and the government was like pushing the reset button on the government. So lots of things didn't work smoothly. The government processes weren't really in place yet. They were in a terrible recession. Unemployment was rumored to be like 70% there, which I don't know if that's right or not, but everybody was doing entrepreneurial things and just doing anything they could to survive. And the people were amazing. They were really incredible people there. And our translator's family was really awesome, and we stayed with them. And they, the mom was a conservatory musician, a teacher, or used to be, and then now she was trying to sell things at a local market out of the trunk of the car, and just doing anything they could to survive, because it was really difficult in Ukraine. And the translator's father was a nuclear engineer at the shipping town in Nikolaev, retired, and he was our driver and drove us around and did stuff like that. So they were just such great people. And so we went to the orphanage, saw Anna for the first time and fell in love, and then we had to go through a series of processes to finalize it over about 10 days. And I'm just going to fast forward through some of this because I won't belabor the details, but we got to the point where we were ready to go to court, and the judge would bang the gavel and it would all be over, and then we get to take Anna home. And what happens, and I'll tell you a little bit more about why we saw health things on her summary, because in countries, and Ukraine's not special here. I mean, a lot of countries feel the same way. They have sort of a nationalistic pride, and they sort of aren't too keen on foreigners coming from other countries and taking healthy babies out of their country. It just doesn't feel right to some, or maybe politically doesn't go well for candidates when they say that they allow that kind of thing. So there was a law in place in Ukraine at that time that said the only way a person can come from another country and adopt a baby under 2, I think it was at that time, is if the baby has serious health conditions. And because the baby would be better off, getting out of the country and having medical care elsewhere and all that. So what that caused people to do, because the people that owned the orphanages, all they cared about was the children, and they wanted the children to be safe and healthy and all that. So what the orphanage would do is just make up health conditions. So they have a baby and they say, oh, it has a hole in her heart and it has a hemorrhage and has a this and a that, and there'd be 3 or 4 really scary sounding things. And they would just write those down even if they weren't true, so that the baby could get adopted. And that's what they did. And it was sort of known that this happened a good bit, and we were unfortunately the poster children for a prosecuting attorney, who at the very end of our court proceeding, when the judge was just about ready to bang the gavel and it would all be over, she stood up and gave this long speech, which I don't understand. I think she was speaking Russian. They speak Ukrainian in the courts usually, but most people speak Russian in Ukraine, with the exception of some, like government matters and things like that. So she gave this long speech. I didn't understand a word of it. And then my translator turns to me after that 15-minute speech, and he gave me about a 12-second summary. And he said the prosecutor is objecting to this adoption and wants to send the baby to Odessa, which is hours away, for a health evaluation, because they think that the health conditions are made up. And they want to make an example of us because this is going on a lot in Ukraine, and they want to stop it. And so I had to stand up and say why I think we should proceed with the adoption and all that. And I think in the end, we actually prevailed in that proceeding. The judge overruled the prosecutor, which was great. And so I thought we were clear to go. But then the judge unfortunately said, because this objection was raised in court, he is unable to waive the normal waiting period. Because normally there's a several-week waiting period you have to wait before you can take the baby home. And so now our whole travel thing was screwed up, because we were supposed to fly out the next day or two. And we had to change everything. And the other problem was, since the prosecutor had been overruled, they have 30 days to appeal. And so we had to wait, or couldn't do anything with Anna until that 30 days elapsed. So my wife and I had to get on a train and come home to America without Anna, which was crushing. Oh my God, it was so hard. And we came home, dealt with a bunch of legal BS back and forth for a while, trying to figure out what we needed to do to make sure everything went okay. But meanwhile, we're waiting, and the appeal, luckily the prosecutor wasn't appealing the case. So what happens, day 30, the last day, the prosecutor appeals the case, just to be, I think, whatever. So she appealed the case on day 30, and then we had to hire a lawyer in Ukraine to go represent us and do all this stuff. And finally, we prevailed eventually. And my wife then went, and I had used up all my vacation at work, so my wife had to go back to Ukraine by herself, which was pretty brave and amazing. And she went with the translator and did the whole trip all over again, went and got Anna and brought her home. It was pretty incredible. But it was, Ukraine was an amazing experience. We'll never forget it as long as we live. It was really a beautiful country, and the people were we just loved being there, but the difficulty of it, put a damper on the whole trip, obviously. But so, I think it's kind of a worst case scenario. I guess the only thing worse would be if we didn't get to bring Anna home, but luckily we got through it and brought Anna home, so.
And well, I did have cerebral palsy. Well, I do.
Yeah, she ended up having cerebral palsy, so that's kind of ironic that we'd be the ones that they choose to say that the health conditions aren't real. But at the time, they didn't know she had cerebral palsy, so that was just a weird coincidence and a little bit of irony to the whole thing.
And if you want to hear my cerebral palsy story, I'll put that video in the description. How many you have no help?
Yeah. Anything else? I'm trying to think.
Winnie from Heaven.
Hmm?
Winnie, I'm adopted.
Oh yeah, we adopted Winnie too. Her story is not quite so dramatic. No courts or prosecutors involved with Winnie.
No.
Yeah.
Man, I hope this video helps someone out there. If it was, please feel free to tell your story. I miss hearing them down in the comments. Sometimes you're new here.
And if you have any questions about the process, I mean, and again, I don't want this story to put anybody off of adoption. Ours was really extreme, and that doesn't happen very often. And we have friends who adopted from China and elsewhere, and the adoptions have gone smooth as silk. So this is just a weird case, but we thought it'd be interesting to share it with you. And a happy ending, thank God.
I had a moment to do this video as well.
Okay.
So, if you have any questions, feel free to comment them. If they're something you don't want to comment publicly, feel free to message me via Instagram or send me an email on my YouTube email. And I will